So the hat's done, I'm happy it's done, and I got redemption. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 163 of the Love and Stitches podcast. It is the first podcast of 2023, which, you know what? I didn't stop and think about how many years that makes it, because I did start podcasting in January, which I think it was January 2019. So this is the 5th year, I guess, because 19, 20, 21, 22. So yeah, the 5th year of the podcast. Welcome. Okay, so a few things. I have not podcasted in 3 weeks. So I have some new projects to catch you up on, and we're also going to introduce a couple of new segments this year in the podcast. So listen up for those. But one important announcement I want to share here, and I will share it again in the announcements section, is that the Love and Stitches membership is open right now, but it's only open until Friday, January 6th, which I realize is like tomorrow if you're watching this when it is coming out. So the link will be down below, but just in case you're watching this over the weekend or you've missed it, the membership will open again in April, and I'll put a waitlist link below so that you can add your name to that and get reminded so you don't miss it the next time that the membership comes out. And I'm sorry that I'm not able to give more time here on YouTube, but these were already dates that I had set, and I've been sharing it on Instagram. So just another, if you don't follow me on Instagram, maybe go do that. Let me make this a little bit higher. That's better. Okay, I'm joined today by Toaster, just in case, oh, you know what? I will do that in just a moment. Maybe I'll do a little more of an introduction, just in case you found me during Vlogmas and you're new here. I'm so excited that you're here. But one last thing I want to share before we get started is my new shirt. This is a cute, adorable sweatshirt from Tony Lipsy, who's TL Yarn Crafts, who is like Queen of Crochet. So obviously we got granny squares here. And then it says, Granny in Training. It is so cute. I have one complaint though. It is so long and narrow. Maybe I should have gotten a bigger size. This is the size medium, but I'm not super in love with like the fit from here down, mostly because it's tight, but I also just think it's too long. So I have folded up the band, but I still don't think I like how that looks. So would love your opinion. Do you think I could cut this and just let it roll? I think that would look a little nicer, because right now it's so tight here that it's kind of puffing out here, and I'd rather it just like lay and relax. So question one, do you think I could do that? Would it be okay? Would the material be all right and not unravel? And two, would that look stupid? Let me know, and I'll link this sweatshirt. It's really cute. Tony has so many amazing like different merch things, so you can go check all of her stuff out below. All right, I think that's everything for the intro. So let's get right into the projects. All right, let's do a super quick intro that I did not plan, but I feel like that's a good idea at the beginning of the year. And again, just if you're joining us from Vlogmas and this is your first podcast that you're watching. So my name is Natalie. This is Toaster, our dog. I live in New York City with my husband, Kent. He's in the other room eating lunch. If you hear like, I keep hearing his fork on the bowl a little bit, so I don't know if you're hearing it there. But we work together full time on Love and Stitches, which is my knitting everything. I podcast mostly weekly, Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern time, which is New York time. You can expect a podcast just about every week. And definitely follow me on Instagram at Knitty Natty to see everything that I'm doing in between. And I also update you there if anything last minute happens with the podcast. I also do videos on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. and they vary from tutorials to vlogs to events to yarn store tours. So just make sure that you are keeping up here. The best way to do that is to subscribe to the channel, just so like those videos come up in your home feed on YouTube. I also learned recently that you can save videos to watch a watch later playlist, which I love doing now. I learned that during Vlogmas from another YouTuber. And so if you see a video that you want to watch, but you can't watch it right now, you can just hover over it, click the little, kind of looks like a clock, and it will go to your watch later playlist, and then you'll just have a full playlist of things that you want to watch. That's not for me, like my channel only. That's for everybody. I just wanted to share that tip with you. Okay, so the podcast, how it typically works is I have some reoccurring segments. I usually always talk about my projects, starting with finished objects first. Then I talk about, I have had a rotating section, but I think we're gonna change that up this year. I talk about my life updates towards the end, so that way if you're here mostly just for knitting and crochet, you can maybe tune into that part or maybe not. I also go through announcements every single week. And then I am changing up my life segment just a little bit and adding in a few new things. I like to share what I'm reading, what I'm watching, and then I have a new one to end out this year. That's basically it. All right, so grab something to eat, drink, knit on, crochet on, and we're gonna dive right into projects. So what do I want to share first? I think I will share these. I should have gotten some blockers, but I did not. So since I last saw you, I have finished a pair of socks. These are the Cider House socks by Summer Lee. I made a few modifications and I have my project page linked down below. Modification number one, I used a different color combination. So these two colors, let me talk about that, are from Sockmas 2022. They are the Mandy's Makings colors and they are no longer available. They are retired colors. Hold on. I'm not quite back organized with my labels and everything yet. So they're both from Mandy's Makings. The pink one is called Handmade Ornament, and the blue one is called Snow Globe. And because I knew I wasn't going to knit two pairs of socks during Sockmas, I decided to just use both colors to make one pair. So I thought these colors looked great together, and then I chose to use the little mini that came with this one, I believe, for both of them. And by the way, I have 70 grams of yarn left on each of these. So these socks used approximately 30 grams of yarn. I'm a size women's US 8. So that's how big my foot is. And I can't remember, I think I knit like the adult small or medium in the pattern. But it's a really great pattern. It's got some lovely cables. This is a great pattern to either learn to cable, or if you want to learn to cable without a cable needle, really doable in this pattern. I changed the heel to my favorite Fish Lips Kiss heel with the stockinette right here. And if you're looking at these socks and you're like, wow, those are nasty, I finished these on the trip down to Nashville. We went to visit my parents, my family, for Christmas. I finished them in the car on the way down, and then I wore them like almost every single day that we were there. So these have been worn, and you can see, I don't know if you can see, they're pilling and they're dirty, and honestly, I need to wash them. That's how much I wore them, but I love them. I love that they're tall. I love that they're the two different colors. They're so cute. Oh, okay, back to modifications. So I changed the heel. I obviously changed the colors. And then what else did I change? I did an extra little stripe here because I just wanted to kind of incorporate the contrast color. And then I did my ergonomic toe, the elongated ergonomic toe, which you might be familiar with if you have taken my Perfect Fit Socks course. But an ergonomic toe is basically toes that kind of match your toe shape, and they're different on each sock. So I think you can kind of tell, like this side slopes in more while this is a steeper slope, and then this one's the opposite, like on the opposite side, so that I have a right and a left foot or toe. But mostly sock, right and left sock. So I love how these came out. They're so cute. They're going back in the wash pile because they are just covered in hair and dirty and stinky, but they're not really that stinky. They were a little bit stinky, but I love knitted socks because you can wear them more than once. And they just air out and then they're ready to go. You can wear them, I would say, at least 10 times, unless they get dirty. So love how these came out. Cider House Socks by Summer Lee. These yarns I am not planning to use again, but I already have a destination for them, so I'm going to be rewinding them just so the cakes are like fresh because I've been pulling from the center. I just pulled these out of the yarn cozies and sending them off to that recipient along with the labels. So I'm not throwing away the labels this time. All right, next project. I finished one other thing. Yes, one other thing since I saw you last, and it was something that was nearly done. So if you watched the last episode, I was frantically working on this hat, trying to finish it before I went to a hockey game for the Dallas Stars, which is what these colors are inspired by. The yarn is, and I've been working on these projects because I did my hat for myself, then I did a hat for Kent, and then I ripped out the hat for myself and it turned into this hat. So I have been working on these since September, and I'm so happy to be done with them, and I'm sure you're happy to not see these labels anymore. But the yarn is from Rain's Obsessive Stitchery. One of the colors is Victory Park and the other one is the Hanger. If you're a Dallasite, is that the right word? Or if you are a Dallas Stars fan, those are references to areas around the building where the hockey team, the Dallas Stars, plays. And these are their colors. So I finally finished my hat, and this is a Musselburgh hat by Isolde Teague. But I made, again, a few modifications. So this time I changed up the colors. So instead of having one solid color all the way throughout the hat, I did a portion of it in solid green. Then I transitioned to the variegated color, and well, I'll come back to that for the rest of the hat. So what that does, why it's not split directly in the middle, is so that when I fold up the brim of the hat, it is this variegated part on both sides, and I will show you in just a second. The other thing I changed is I did a rib on one side, and then I did a rib in the middle here for the brim. This hat is really not exactly what I hoped it would come out to be. To be honest, I wish I could go, or I can. I'm not going to. I wish I had done this the first time. It's made it a little bit longer, and I'm going to keep that in mind because I do have a Musselburgh whip. Okay, I think there was an eyelash in my eye. A Musselburgh whip. So I'm going to make sure to keep that in mind and keep it a little bit longer. But I worked so hard on these, so I'm still proud of them and how much I went back and modified and changed and everything. So for all of the variegated part, I was doing helical knitting. Oh my gosh, what is going on in my eye right now? Hold on, I'll be right back. Well, I don't know what that was, and I can say that things still don't feel quite right, but I did just change out my contact, so hopefully we can keep on rolling. Where was I? Okay, so this hat, the Musselburgh hat, blah, 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 not quite exactly what I wanted it to be. I think I explained all the sections. I do have a project page, which I tried to have pretty detailed instructions on like how long I did each section and all of that. I would just say that maybe lengthen it. I wish it was maybe 2 inches longer. I think that would give me an inch on either side. So let's put this on. So you split it, like you pull apart the layers, and then tuck one end of the hat up inside the other. I find, it's a little difficult. I find that it gets easier with time because your hat kind of like finds a natural fold. But what I like to do is put the crown inside the other one, and then I flip it so that the other side is showing, and kind of, you know, pull on it, rearrange it, and then flip it one more time. And that seems to really like settle things inside of there. So now you can see that we've got a brim. This folds up and it's rib on both sides. So let me show you how it looks. So my intention was for it to be a little slouchy and fold up, but I didn't quite get that. Instead, I get like not slouchy and folds up. Or I have like the tiniest brim ever, which is not preferable either. Okay, so here's the one side with the rib. See, again, not slouchy. That's okay. It's kind of what I was going for, but it's fine. And a nice brim. Then, if we flip it the other way, I have the stockinette side. Actually, I'm gonna try I'll try folding it up here before putting it on. And actually like the more that I wear this, or like see it, I guess, from a distance, I like the way that the yarn pulled a little bit more each time. So the hat's done. I'm happy it's done. And I got redemption because I totally forgot that we were also planning to go to a Stars game in Nashville with my family. So I was able to wear this hat to a Dallas Stars game, and that's good enough for me. I also pulled out the socks that I made out of this yarn. You can see how different the yarn does when it's in a small circumference in the round versus a larger circumference, and it's really meant for socks. So me fighting against the pulling is all on me. It's really meant to be knitted to socks, but I got to wear my Dallas Stars socks with my Dallas Stars hat. Kent got to wear his as well, and we got a nice cute picture of the two of us together with our hats on, which just felt super, super good. All right, so let's take that off. So those are my two finished objects in the last couple of weeks, which I don't think I was too far on the socks. Like I hadn't finished one, so that feels pretty good. The hat, literally finished it the very next day after the game, after the first game. So kind of funny, but okay, let's get into some new projects. So after I finished my Cider House socks, I wanted to have another pair of socks ready to cast on. And so I brought along with me on my trip to Nashville my Advent yarn that I did not start on December 1st, but instead used it as a Christmas Day cast on. So I didn't start it right after I finished my socks, but they were the next socks in line, if that makes sense. That's the way my brain works. Like finish one pair of socks, start a new pair of socks. Finish a sweater, start a sweater. Kind of. But I have done a whole lot. So this yarn is from Mint Rain hand-dyed yarns, and this is the Advent 2022. It is 24 stripes, and I have made it through 24 stripes. This was the very last one. Actually, like just made it through 24 stripes. You can see this kind of murky green is starting again right here. So this has been really fun, and because I'm not doing it as an Advent, I'm just knitting as much as I want on it every time that I pull it out instead of working on one stripe a day. But that is the intention with these self-striping yarns. Of course, when you purchase something, you can do whatever you want with it. But I was feeling disappointed in December that I didn't get to start these. And so having them as like a Christmas Day cast on kind of brought back a little bit of the fun and the joy. And like, I didn't feel so down on myself, I guess, about like not being able to start them. So this pattern is something that I am working on right now, trying it out and then thinking about developing it into a pattern. So I'm not going to say much more right now. I did have somebody reach out to me sharing a similar pattern, which I really appreciate, because you never want to put out a pattern out there that's like just a copy of somebody else's pattern, whether it was intentional or not. So I had to look through that pattern and realize that mine is different in the stitch pattern, and then a few other things that I'm trying to work on to make some really great fitting socks. So these are inspired actually by a pair of socks I have been wearing a lot, which are these mustache yarns. This color is called Kama Sutra, I believe. And I knit these, oh my gosh, a long time ago when we were still living back in Texas, but like early into that, I think before I even got married, maybe. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I bought this yarn at DFW Fiberfest, maybe my first one. But I've been wearing these a ton, and I realized that what I like about them is that the leg is really, really long. And that seems to really help keep the socks up, and just, it's something that I've really enjoyed. But there's a few things about it that I don't really like they were tight around the ankles, and a few other things that I've learned about socks since I made these. So I'm trying to make modifications on that sock so that I can write up a new pattern and share it with all of you. So stay tuned. If that comes true, I'll be putting out a call for testers, probably on Instagram, and I don't know, we'll just go from there. I don't want to make any promises yet, but I've got a nice, long, tall leg. I guess it's got 20 of the stripes in there, which is awesome. Kind of a shorter cuff, my fish lips kiss heel, And yeah, that's it so far. So this has been a fun project. I've really enjoyed it. Oh, and the yarn came already in two. It looked like it was one skein when it was all wound together, but it was actually two skeins. So it's really easy to wind them up, put them in my 50-gram yarn cozies, and I've just been carrying them around together. It also came with 20 grams of a contrast color, which I've also put in a mini yarn cozy. So that's been a nice, fun project. Don't think there's much more to say about that. Then I started a new sweater. I actually started this on, I believe it was December 18th. Yeah, December 18th, because it is what I'm calling my friendship sweater. So my friend Brianna, who you may know as the Little Wolf Knits, and then my friend Amy, we were all together one weekend. It was actually Brianna's trunk show in New Jersey, in one of the shops in New Jersey, where she was selling her yarn. And we wanted to make something out of her yarn, Amy and I did. And so we were like looking through the shop and we saw this lace and fade boxy. And all three of us were like, oh my gosh, let's make a sweater together. And we like got all excited and we all picked out our yarn and our colors. And then from there, things changed a little bit. We all, first we all had the same main color and a different contrast color. And then Bree was like, you know what? I don't really think I want to make the lace and fade boxy, but I still want to knit a sweater with everybody. So I think I'm going to use a similar color and make a different sweater. We're like, cool. And then I was like, you know, I don't think I really like the colors that I picked. I think I'm going to pick the same colors as Amy. So now our friendship sweater is Amy and I knitting identical sweaters and Bree using one of the same colors for a different sweater, but it's still the friendship sweater. And that's what I kind of love about doing knit-alongs and other things. It's like you're working on things together. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing. It doesn't really matter how we got here, but it's just fun to be like working on something with your friends or with a community. Okay, so let me show you my sweater after all of that explanation. This has been my main project since I finished Advent, so I've made some pretty good progress on it in the last week or so. Okay, I don't know. Which one is the front? I think this. Okay, so this is the Lace and Fade Boxy by Hoagie Locatelli. It is intended to be a fade in the stockinette portions, but I am not fading mine. I am just using these two colors, which I will share with you now. So I was at first using a float tote, which is why my yarns are in float tote cups. But both of these are from the Little Wolf Knits, and I've got her Surrey base and her Sunfish base, I think is what it's called. It's the 7525. I do not have labels for these, but this one is called Apple Cider, and this one is called Too Good to Eat. And both of these are from her donut collection that she did a few months ago. I've got 2 skeins of this one and 1 skein of the Surrey. And you can see I'm actually working through this one pretty quickly, which is exciting. Oh my gosh. Just found some lotion and some lip gloss in my project bag. How nice of past me to put that in there. So anyway, let's talk about the sweater. So I have made a boxy, just plain old fingering weight boxy, back in like 2015 or 2016, and I haven't worn it much as of late. I used to wear it a whole lot more, but now I have other sweaters that I like the fit of or the feel of more. So I have been in the back of my mind kind of wanting to make a boxy for a while, and then Hoagie came out with the Lace and Fade boxy, and I've been drooling over versions of that. My friend Bethany made one that I really love. Did Natty make one? I can't remember. Anyway, I've just been like following along in people's Instagrams, seeing them make these Lace and Fade boxies, and I'm just really excited to make one now myself and have another sweater in my collection. So I am liking how things are looking so far. I think it's kind of hard to tell. Oh, here we go, back here. This apple cider color actually has a little bit of that pinky purple color in here. What's interesting about this color, Too Good to Eat, is that sometimes it looks purple to me and sometimes it looks pink to me. I think it's looking pretty pink today, but sometimes when you're indoors, it's looking a little more purpley. I don't know. It's a color that I really, really like. This color though, I have been debating. I have been like, wait, do I really like that color? Do I not like that color? I don't know. Oh, it's good for me to get out of my comfort zone. Oh, when I don't like something, I should listen to myself and stop working on it. And I've just been back and forth. But I decided that I wanted to keep going on this. And once I got the second set of lace in here, I decided that I really do like this and I'm excited to wear it and to do something a little bit different for my wardrobe. So there you go. Sometimes we just make decisions with the best information that we have. So far, I have really enjoyed this sweater. It was an interesting construction. I cannot remember. I think the other boxy that I did was bottom up. So I'm pretty sure this is a little bit different for me. But I believe, I just did this a few weeks ago, but I'm trying to remember. You kind of cast on like shoulders and then you knit the back and then you like pick up shoulders to the front and then connect them and then connect in the round. So it's a lot of different moving parts all at once in the beginning, which is fun. But now I'm joined in the round and it's just super simple, knitting the stockinette, then knitting the lace, then knitting the stockinette, then knitting the lace. I can definitely see how this is a kind of potato chippy pattern, especially if you are fading, because you'll always want to get to the next section because it's something different, something different, something different. So that can be really fun. But for me, since I'm just working the same plain two colors, I decided to kind of make things more interesting by working on the body and then working on something else and then working on the body and then working on something else. So I've already gone and picked up and knit my neckline and woven all the ends, which I have to say feels really good because there were a lot of ends from all those different parts. So my neckline is done. It is definitely going to roll because it is a stockinette edge, but once I block it, I believe it will be a little less rolly. And then I decided I wanted to do a sleeve, and these sleeves are really skinny and really tiny because they start like about at the elbow. This pattern is has a lot of positive ease. The interesting thing is that the size, but like depending on your size, you have less or more positive ease. So I would definitely pay attention to that when you're picking your size. That's something that I was like, that's a little bit different because again, depending on which size you pick, whether you're like closer to one part of the range, you'll get less ease. And so you may not have the fit that you're looking for. So just really pay attention to that. I think it's an easy adjustment. But this one is going to have a lot of positive ease. So what I've actually done is I am knitting the smallest size, not something that I would normally do. Normally I'm somewhere in like usually the third or fourth size, but I'm knitting the smallest size, which is smaller than recommended for my bust measurement because I don't want quite as much ease. But then to make up for that, because all the measurements change when you go down a size, I am going up to the next size for the armhole. So that just means that I knit a little bit longer on the armhole and to match that second size, and then picked up more stitches for the sleeves again to match that second size. They're still really skinny, but they should be fine because they're going to be like right down here, and they will get a little bigger with blocking. So yeah, that's how it's going. I think there's 5 total lace sections, so I'm just kind of cruising through right now. When I get bored, I'll pick up and knit the other sleeve. I want to do that before I run out of yarn because I want the sleeves to come from the same ball of yarn. I have a second ball sitting in my whip basket, so I think it's going very, very nicely. Oh, and last thing, I want to finish the sweater before Vogue Knitting Live in New York. That's in February. Can't remember the dates. I think it's in early February. So as long as I keep on trucking, keeping this my main project, don't let myself get distracted, I think that will happen just fine. I have one more beautiful project to share, a whip, and I have a couple skeins of yarn that have come into my stash for Advent that I also just want to share on here as well. So let's talk about this project. This is my granny strip blanket. It is the granny, hold on, I'm trying to can't pick up the whole thing, but I have it folded. Here we go. It is a modified Granny Stripes by Lucy of Attic 24. So originally the pattern is written for DK weight yarn, but I have modified it for fingering weight with the help of some other people who did this, I think 5 years ago when I started this blanket. I actually need to look and see, I know I'm approaching the 5-year birthday of this project, and I thought it would be kind of funny to talk about that on Instagram. I may have missed it, but that's okay. I can look back at my Ravelry page and see. So this was a project that, again, I started it a long time ago. I really worked on it a lot at first. I was doing like the Scrappy Sunday stuff very consistently, and then it would fall off, and then like I would pull it out for Advent when I was opening up mini skeins and stuff, and then I would fall off again, and that's okay. It's just been a really slow going project, but it is getting finished this year because I am so close. In fact, I was using this blanket. I almost didn't bring it with me on my Nashville trip. In fact, I was pretty adamant that I wasn't gonna bring it, but then I didn't get to finish my last two. You know what, let me share that first before I share more. So I was working on this, crocheting. Have I said knitting on this? I might have said knitting. Crocheting on this for Advent. So from December 1st to the 25th, I was opening up my mini skeins from Fangirl Fibers for the Retro Toy Advent Calendar, Sears Retro Toy Advent Calendar. And I was doing 2 rows, which equaled a stripe every single day. And that started, hang on, right here with the pink. I believe the pink was Barbie, and then it just goes up from there. These are all the lovely colors all the way to Mr. Potato Head at the end. So if you're watching Vlogmas, you got to see this develop. And so I'd say, I don't know, what is that? Maybe, is that almost like a ruler, 12 inches? But I did quite a bit during Vlogmas. And that kind of encouraged me to lay this out, measure it, kind of see like how close am I to finished? How long do I want this to be? And I determined that since this is a 5-foot wide, 60-inch blanket, which is the width of a queen size mattress, that I would make it 80 inches long. It's about 7.5 feet, I think. Also the length, the length of a queen size mattress. So basically this blanket will be, will go on a queen size bed, but it'll just be the top portion. It's not like queen size in the sense that it goes over the bed, but it still makes a really nice big blanket. So I'm not quite there yet. I think when I was calculating it and figuring it out, I need 26 more stripes, which is 52 rows. Each stripe is 2 rows to complete this blanket. And so that's about just a little more all the way. So that's where I started. Vlogmas, Advent, 24 stripes. So if I count down 2, I have this much more to go to make this blanket 80 inches, which is very exciting. But it's still a good size blanket right now, which means that I was using this blanket all throughout the last couple of weeks in December. So I almost didn't bring it on my trip to Nashville. I didn't get to finish the last 2 colors, so I decided, you know what, I'll just bring it. I'm enjoying this so much. I will finish up the colors, and then I will just set it aside, and I will pick it back up in January. And I'm really glad I brought it because I ended up, I'm falling off my chair. I ended up using this as a literal blanket. So because it's crochet, all I've got is this one end, because I've been very diligent weaving in my ends as I go. I have this one end and 2 finished edges. There's no live stitches with this crochet, so it's just been like a full-size blanket. I used it in the car, it helped me get some sleep on the drive down. I was using it at my parents' house. Toaster's been using it a lot. He loves this blanket. Even my brother was using it. Even Kent was using it. He was sleeping in the car with it over his head on our way back up. So it's already served a great purpose. I think it doesn't actually look too bad. There's quite a bit of dog hair in here now, maybe a few little fuzzy dirt things. I wanted to use it, but I didn't want it to get too dirty since I need to still work on it for another 26 stripes or whatever. But yeah, it's looking really, really good. So my goal is to finish this project. I I would say like mostly in January, I am doing a 30 for 30 with the Love and Stitches membership. We're doing it for the first 40 days of the year. So the goal is to pick a singular project, work on it for 30 minutes a day for 30 days. And you may have heard of this before because I started this, I think 3 or 4 years ago. We did it publicly as a make along, and then we haven't done it for a few years, not officially in any sense. And so I decided to bring it back in the membership this year, and we are giving ourselves a 40-day time period. So we have some buffer time. So if you can't start January 1st, like me, it's January 4th and I haven't started yet. You can pick your starting time, and then you have 30 days to do 30 minutes a day for 30 days. And so if I do 26 days, I guess I don't have 30 days to do it. If I do 26 days, this blanket should be complete. So yeah, I guess if I start today or tomorrow, I can actually finish this within the month of January. So I should definitely do that. My one barrier right now is that I don't know exactly which yarn I want to use. I have a couple of options because I have a lot of scraps. I can either just use scraps, like I have so many scraps, just leftovers from random projects, or we did a swap in the Love and Stitches membership a year ago now, and I had started using those scraps from the swap in the blanket, and then I just stopped. And so I could continue using those, which would be a great use because I don't know where else I'm going to use those, and I would like to use them. Or I could get out my Fangirl Fibers Advent from last year that I didn't use, the Disney Advent calendar, and put that in. But I think those colors are all a white base, and I don't want anything that looks too uniform going into the blanket. So I think maybe I've just made my decision. I should probably use these scraps from my swap on this blanket. So there you go, problem solved. I'll get started on that maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, and the goal is 30 minutes a day to finish that in January. Sorry, Toaster. Did that scare you, buddy? Okay, last thing here. So many knitty things to catch you up on. I have a few new skeins of yarn that I would like to share with you. Two of these are from Advents, and 2 are yarns that I purchased at Bliss Yarns in Brentwood, Tennessee when I was visiting. So let's start with the Advent ones. So a Homespun House Advent came with a full skein of yarn, and it is called Land of Sweets. And it has the 2022 label on there, which is really, really fun. So I am imagining that this will probably become a pair of socks. I love this color. This base is so soft. Couldn't be more me. So I love this. It's going into stash, and I'm hanging on to it for now. The next one is the Fangirl Fibers Sears Toy Advent Calendar. This one also came with a full skein, and this one is called All I Want for Christmas is Toys. This one definitely has a holiday feel, which gives me kind of a new goal for next year to be, if I'm stashless still at the end of this year, then I could cast on the skein that comes in my Advent calendar. But right now, I'm not feeling very Christmassy or holiday-like, so I don't know what I'm going to do with this skein yet, if I will hang on to it or if I will end up using it as a giveaway or maybe destashing it in my membership. I like to do that a lot, and it's fun to be able to give a beautiful skein of yarn to somebody else. Okay. Then I bought a couple skeins. Oh, that just gave me an idea. I bought a couple skeins of Bliss Yarns for my members because I like to do different prizes. This quarter we've been doing yarn prizes as I've been destashing or just like getting things in that I just can't possibly use all of it. But there was 2 beautiful yarns at Bliss that I thought would make wonderful prizes for the membership, so I just had to grab them. And if you live nearby, you can go get one. So the first is from Raven Moon Dye Works, I think it says on there. And this color is Christmas at Opryland. There's an Opryland hotel in Nashville, and it is always beautifully decorated for Christmas. So you can see it's a really fun holiday color. Although I think if you didn't see the color name, you could also kind of think that this is like tropical. I almost think like a tropical bird. So very pretty color, and it's going to be a prize for the membership. And then there was another one from Big Sky. Can you hear the ambulance? Where is it? Okay, I think it's past us. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's pretty loud for me. Okay, so this is another holiday one that's holiday, but also I think could be something else. And this one is called Sorry Mom, I Broke Another Ornament. The dyer behind Big Sky, why can I not think of her name right now? But she has, I think, 5 kids. So it's a very funny color name, and it's really beautiful and different. There was a couple ladies using this color in the shop when I went and hung out with them. So I grabbed one of these too, because these are yarns that I don't know if you can get anywhere else. Maybe, but I'm not sure. So those are gonna be prizes in the Love and Stitches membership, but I just wanted to share them because I thought they were so pretty. I am not sure if I'm gonna be, actually, I think what I'm gonna do this year for the podcast is at the end of the month, I'll kind of talk about stash and plants, because yeah, maybe I need to think through this a little bit more. I don't have much stash anymore to talk about it in multiple segments in the podcast. So maybe I'll just continue to do that at the end. But the reason that I brought that up anyway is that all these skeins, while I did get them in the last month, they're not all going into stash, 2 for prizes. I'm thinking this one may actually be a prize too. Maybe I can give away 3 prizes. But this one is going into stash, and hopefully you'll see it in a project one day very soon. I'm excited to share that the Q&A segment of the podcast is coming back as a permanent section. So I guess from when I started the podcast to 2021, I was keeping track of questions in my Ravelry group, which I will say is not something that I look at anymore. Now that I have the membership and more involved on Instagram and trying to do better about looking at my comments, the Ravelry group is just something that we just don't really use. And for make-alongs from here on out, we're gonna be using Discord. So it's there, but I will say I'm really not checking it. But I used to have a spot where people could ask questions. And then every week on the podcast, I would go in and I would try to answer as many questions as I could. What started to happen is I would get a really big backlog of questions, sometimes 15 or more questions that I hadn't answered yet. And it was just really hard to catch up. I also just found that since I wasn't answering the questions right away, they were becoming maybe less relevant. Maybe it was a question about a knitting technique or something I had done recently, but then by the time I answered it, it had been a month. And so it just wasn't really working out. And I was also just looking for a way to kind of refresh the podcast. So last year in 2022, I introduced like rotating segments in the podcast, and we had different things kind of going on there. But I will say it never really felt like it was good, but it wasn't like great, I guess. So this year I am bringing back the Q&A, but it's going to be a little bit different. And I'm hoping it resolves some of those problems of not staying current on the questions and just things like that. So instead of having one space where you can go and add your questions, that would just build up till I have so many questions I can't even answer them. We are going to do it this way. On this podcast episode, if you have a question for me that you would like for me to answer in the next podcast, just leave a comment on this video, but make sure to follow this format. First word on your comment needs to be #question. Now did I say question or questions? I think it's question. I took a screenshot. #question, and then just simply ask your question. What I'll do is when I'm planning for the podcast for next week, I'll go back through all of the comments and look for any of them that have the #question at the beginning. Very important that you put that on there so I know to look for your question. And then if I have a lot of the same question or something that's like really different or interesting that I want to make sure to answer, or something that I just think people need to know, I will choose 3 to 5 questions and then make sure to answer them in the Q&A segment next week. And then every week we'll just keep doing that. If you have a question, make sure to put #question on the podcast, and then I will do my best to answer it in the next week. So It's pretty simple and pretty easy, hopefully, for you to ask a question. Just leave a comment, #question. And then for me, it gives me the chance to only look at newer and fresher questions, hopefully that are more relevant from week to week. So we'll try this out and see how it goes. And I will be back in this segment next week to answer your questions. I've got a few announcements this week. The first one is that the Love and Stitches membership is open right now, but only through Friday, January 6th. It will close at midnight Eastern time, which is New York City time. So if you're interested at all, I would not wait. Go ahead and go down below, click on the link, and get signed up before Friday. Just in case you did miss it, I'm also going to put the waitlist link down below. So that way, if you want to join us for the next quarter, you can get an email reminder at that point in time and decide if you would like to sign up. You won't get any emails until then, so don't worry. Don't worry about it. It won't be like a bunch of stuff. So for the membership this quarter, we are doing a challenge make-along theme. So for January, we're doing 30 for 30, like I explained with the granny stripe blanket. You can pick any singular project that you want and just work on it for 30 minutes a day for 30 days. Then in February, our challenge is to learn something new. So at the beginning of February, you will pick the new technique or maybe like a new yarn or something you want to try. It can be small, like maybe a new bind off, or big, like you're a crocheter, you want to learn to knit. You're a knitter, you want to learn to crochet. You're a beginner and you want to learn a sweater. Like it can be big or small. And then your goal is just to work on that, to attempt it in February. Then that leads us up to March, which is our dream project. So in March, you're going to select a dream project that you've always wanted to work on. Maybe it kind of builds, like you learn a new skill in February so that you can make your dream project in March. And then the goal in March is just to begin your dream project. So for me, it's probably going to be the, why did it just go out of my head? All of the Lights cardigan by Joji Locatelli. I have always wanted to make that. In order to make that, I really need to learn how to combine charts in Knit Companion. So my skill for February might be to learn how to combine like cable charts in Knit Companion so that I'm all set up and ready to begin in March. That would be my new skill. But maybe it's gonna be like an amazing blanket or like a temperature blanket or something. You don't have to start at the beginning of the year. Whatever your dream project is, the goal is just to decide it and start it in March. So that's this month's make along, which a lot of our other stuff is other things are themed around. We also have 2 to 4 social events every single month. In January, we are doing an interview and like workshop with the Knitting PT. And we're also doing a dye event with Brianna, who's the Little Wolf Knits, where she's going to dye an exclusive membership colorway that only members can buy. And then from there, I'm still working on February and March, but things change every single month and every single quarter. So come try it out and join with us. The cost is $45 for the quarter, which is $15 per month. You get all the events, the make-alongs. There's also a Discord that we're on every single day. And the other big component is our Zoom groups, which are member-led, like virtual knit and crochet groups that happen throughout the day and every single night. So yeah, we have lots of stuff going on. You can be anywhere in the world. I'll be answering more questions on Instagram. I can't think of anything else right now. All the information is linked down below. I have a new video. It is my 1-year stash update. Because I didn't do a podcast at the end of December, I didn't really close out my stash for the year. So you can head there to see everything. I review the whole year, like from January to December, and talk about how I got to my goal of eliminating stash, which I have once gained, spoiler alert, but I feel like I still eliminated my stash, you know, aside from the things that I just showed you. But yeah, talking about how I got there, how it went up and down throughout the months, the strategies that I used, and then also the lessons that I learned. So if you are looking to curate your stash in any way, meaning you're looking to use some of it, use all of it or add to it in a way that works for you. I think you can find some helpful things in that video. And then coming up next week is going to be my year in review. It's a little late this year because we decided to stay in Nashville a little extra long, but I've got it all planned. I'm ready to record it, and I am going to be reviewing my makes for 2022. I love doing this and looking back on the year and seeing like kind of the story that the year tells, because every year is a little bit different. Some years I knit a lot of one thing. Some years I don't really finish much, and it all is kind of very telling. So I will be talking about my numbers, my makes for the year. I'll be kind of sharing my favorite things that I made, and then sharing some other like basically taking all the goals that I made in last year's video, reviewing them and seeing if I made those goals or why I didn't make those goals, and then making goals for 2023. I'm also going to share some of those at the end of this podcast episode. I think that's everything. So lots of new and fun stuff coming up for this year, but if you missed the stash video, definitely go and check that out. Let's talk about life. What's been going on? Okay, so I kind of, when I was playing this, I'm like, okay, what has happened since Vlogmas has ended? So Vlogmas was the 25 videos that I did daily from December 1st to the 25th. We were recording them 2 days in advance, so I actually last recorded on December 23rd. So here is what has happened since then. And we recorded a little bit of like Christmas and Christmas Eve and a few of the other things we did while we were in Nashville. So we'll be able to kind of show you a couple things as I talk about them, which is fun. Okay, so since Vlogmas ended, we were in Nashville. We had just driven to Nashville, and our plan was to stay for 1 week, but we actually decided to extend our trip and stay a little bit longer on like the day before we were supposed to leave, because we were going to leave like, I guess it was like 4 days after Christmas, and it just felt like everything had finally settled down and we could actually relax, and we had no real pressing things to come back to New York for. We were thinking about coming back for New Year's, but we didn't have any plans to go out on New Year's or do anything that really had to be in New York. And so we decided it would be much nicer for us to stay and spend that time with family. And I'm so glad that we did that. We had a rental car, so we were able to extend it for a few more days. And we ended up driving back on Monday, January 2nd instead. So that was really, really great. But while we were there, we celebrated Christmas with my family. So Kent and I stayed at my parents' house most of the time. All three of my siblings were able to come into town. One lives there in Nashville, but the other two were able to come into town. And we have some Christmas traditions that I was asked to share on Vlogmas, but because we didn't actually record on Vlogmas, I got a little snippet of after that. So on Christmas Eve, we always have chili, and my mom's chili is good. I would say it's my favorite, but it's not like out of this world or anything. But the thing that I love the most is that she makes these cheese muffins. I do not have the recipe. I forgot to get it from her. I definitely need to get it from her, but it is very simple apparently to make, but they are literally so good. Like, I want them all the time, but I know if I had them all the time, they wouldn't be as special or probably taste as good. I mean, they'd probably still taste as good, but they're so delicious. So we have chili and cheese muffins, and we just sit, it's one of those times a year where we actually use the dining room. My parents work from their dining room when they work from home, so they cleared everything out so we could all sit around the table together. And one of my brothers, his fiance was able to come. My other brother's girlfriend was able to come. Actually, that reminds me. One of my brothers got stuck and couldn't drive in until Christmas Day because the horrible weather that happened all over the country it wasn't because of the roads, it was because it burst a pipe in his apartment. And so he had to stay a little bit longer until that could get cleaned up and dried out, and just thank goodness he was there, or they might have had a lot of damage at their apartment. But anyway, so we did that for Christmas Eve, and then we typically open presents on Christmas Eve, but because we were waiting on my brother who had to stay and couldn't drive because of his pipe that burst in his apartment. We ended up opening presents on Christmas Day, which is tradition anyway. I think I know a lot of people that open presents on Christmas Eve, but we've just always done it that way. On Christmas morning, we always have just these like frozen, I think they're called Sister Schuber rolls, but there's sausage ones, and then there are like lemon blueberry and cinnamon roll ones, and they are so good. So we had those on Christmas morning, and then my mom went all out and did like a Thanksgiving spread for Christmas because we didn't spend Thanksgiving together. So we had turkey, we had sweet potato casserole, green bean casserole, mashed potatoes, cheese pie, which is this like eggy cheesy thing, dressing, except for not me, not a huge fan, corn casserole, more Sister Schuber rolls, so good. And I don't know what else, but we ended up eating on that for days, eating more chili, and my mom cooked all kinds of things because her kids were home and she was making all of our favorite meals, and it was super, super nice. Because we stayed longer, we hung out with one of my brothers, actually two of my brothers, a lot. One of them had to go back home pretty early on, but the other two, one that lives there and one that was staying for an extended period of time, we got to hang out with them a lot. So we went to a brewery one day, actually went to two different breweries. We played a lot of games together. We all went to a hockey game where I got to wear my hat and I knitted. I don't know, we just had like a really great time together. Kent and I went over to my brother's house in Nashville and spent the night before and the night of New Year's Eve with them. So we celebrated New Year's together, and we I didn't film any of this, but we watched the Georgia game together. My brother went to the University of Georgia, so that was stressful because the game was really close, but they ended up winning. So yay, they're going to the national championship. So yeah, we had a really, really great time together. We have some extra footage because we kind of thought we might do like a little bonus vlog, but it just didn't end up coming together to anything. So we just have all these little clips that hopefully you got to enjoy as I kind of shared what we did. But we have a lot of the dogs, so mostly of Toaster, but also of my brother's dog, Harry. So I think we'll put them together into something short and cute at the end of this podcast with a little bit of music. So if you enjoy watching dogs being cute, you can watch that at the end. Okay, I have been reading quite a bit. I guess it's just been a time since I last talked to you, but I did finish reading First Comes Scandal by Julia Quinn, which is a Bridgerton like spin-off series. It's the last book in the Rokesby series. So now I'm done with that, and I think I still have a few more Bridgerton books to read. I read all 8 of the Bridgerton books last year, and then I discovered that there were more like prequels and in-betweens and spin-offs. So I have been eating those up. I absolutely love them. I guess their genre would be like historical fiction, romance. It's definitely romance. But I just feel like they're different than just like, I don't know. I don't have anything to compare it to. I wouldn't say I'm like an only romance kind of a reader, but I really like the Bridgerton stuff. Then I started and finished another book. It is called The Rule of One by Ashley and Leslie Saunders. This was a find on Instagram. I have a habit of looking at like the tiny little Instagram reels they put like in between posts and like in between stories that are like getting a lot of views because they're controversial. And I can't help but click on them. Let me know if you're also a victim to that kind of advertising. But anyway, it led me to a book that I really actually enjoyed. What are their names? Ashley and Leslie Saunders are twins, and they wrote this book together. The book is about twins living in America in some distance in the future. It is a fictional book, but the rule of one, basically the government has really just controlled everything. I guess it's kind of like, what's the right word? Dystopian in a little bit of a sense. I guess it would definitely be dystopian because they're like, gonna lead a movement, right? But they're twins, and the law in America in some distance in the future is that there's a one-child policy, which of course was a very true reality in our world, not in the United States, but in China, until pretty recently. Somebody pointed that out to me, and I just want to acknowledge that as very true. That's probably why the reel was coming up as controversial and getting lots of views, because that's what they were talking about. But the book itself is good. It's young adult. It is a pretty easy read, and it flips back and forth between the two twins in the story. It is the first of 3 books, and it is free on Amazon if you're a Prime member to read with a Kindle. So I read it. I thought it was great, and I'm thinking about reading the other 2 books. I could not find them at the library. I think they're too new, and the authors are too new and too small to be at any libraries. At least I couldn't find them on the 3 libraries that I belong to, but I might actually purchase the second book and read it at some point in time. Okay, and then I just a few days ago started a new book, The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Pinner. This book came out in 2021. It's the author's first book. The reason I know that is I looked up the author because Sarah Pinner sounds like a fake name. And I was like, Pinner, is this like a pen name? Or that's not the right word for it. It's a, what is it called? You know when like big authors write underneath another name? I'm like, that's the kind of name that Sarah Pinner is. But no, Sarah Pinner is a real person, and this is her first book. It is a New York Times bestseller and is a very popular book. And I just saw that she's coming out with a new book this year. It may already be out or it's coming. It just said 2023 on the publication. So this book is really great. I did start reading it last year, but for some reason I stopped reading it. I don't know if I felt like it was too difficult at the time. I was going through a lot of stuff. So when I first downloaded the book from the library, I was like, why am I on like the 14% of the way through? So I started it over, remembered nothing, and I'm really enjoying it right now. But we are reading The Lost Apothecary as a book club for the Love and Stitches membership. We read a different book every single month that is voted on by the members, and the categories we try to, our book club leaders are really good about trying to change up the genres. So I don't know what genre The Lost Apothecary is. I guess it would be a little bit of historical fiction because half of the chapters are at one point in time and the rest are in present day. So it hops back and forth, and it's really neat and really interesting, and I'm very much enjoying it. So much so that I read for like an hour last night, sitting on the couch and knitting before I got in bed, and then read. So I'm like 60% of the way through the book, and hopefully we'll finish it up. I'm going to talk about this in my year in review, but I read a lot last year, and that is something that's a brand new habit for me, and I would like to continue it for this year. Speaking of habits, we are going to be changing out the last little segment of the podcast here, which has been weekly wins. That was something that was really important for me to look at in 2022 because it was a hard year in a lot of ways. I used weekly wins as a way to look at the positive and like see where I was growing and changing and taking care of myself. And that was really important for me in 2022. This year, I'm starting out the year in a really good place. It's the beginning of the year. And so of course I'm thinking about goals and things that I want to do. So I don't know if you can relate to this, but I was thinking about all these things I want to do and change and make habits of and do for the whole year. And then I found myself feeling really overwhelmed because it's not like you go to bed on December 31st, wake up on January 1st as a brand new person. That's just not the way that it works. But we all probably feel a little bit of something at the beginning of the year, whether it's motivation, whether it's like, I don't know, overwhelmingness. We all feel a little something at the beginning of a year that it's a sense of a chance to start something new. And so I, instead of, setting my computer down, instead of making one New Year's resolution for the whole year or looking at goals for the whole year, I'm trying something different. And that is to try a new like habit or goal every single month in 3 different areas. So basically I had all these thoughts of like things I wanted to do and change. And I'm like, yeah, I'll start them all like January 1st. And then you don't start them January 1st. So you're like, oh, January 2nd, oh, January 3rd, oh, January 4th. And you feel like you failed. But that's not true. That's something that I really learned last year. And something that I also learned in 2022, a habit that I learned was planning. And so something that is now just part of who I am, easy for me to do, is sitting down weekly and putting together a calendar of things that I need to do for my business and my personal life in that week. And it has been really effective. It is not perfect, but it is something that now is easy for me to do. And so I'm using that skill to implement these new things. So basically I wrote down a bunch of ideas that I had. I'm like, oh, I want to take baths every week. Oh, I want to start doing facial massage. I don't know if you've seen that on Instagram. Oh, I want to make sure I catch up on my bookkeeping in my business. I want to change my Instagram. I want to start taking walks more. I like all of these things, just all of these things. And I wrote them all down and I'm like, okay, you can't do everything. So I want to pick one thing that I can focus on for January. What's the most important thing? What's the most effective thing to do for January? And I will just do that thing. And I will choose how often I'm going to do it each week. And every week in the podcast, this will be a perfect place to check in and say, am I doing the thing? Should I still be doing the thing? Is it effective for me? Is it what I was wanting? And I can change it at any time. So totally different, I think, than a resolution where we pick one thing and expect ourselves to do it for the whole year and fail after 2 weeks and then quit. Instead, I'm picking these things and I'm making them a habit for a month, but I'm looking at them weekly and going, is this still working for me? Something, again, that I've just been learning in the last year. And again, because of my calendaring, I will be able to put these things into my calendar and really see if I'm doing them. Okay, I feel like I've over-explained that, so let me just tell you what the things are. So I have one personal goal, one business goal, and one knitting goal for the month. Each of these goals are going to be bite-sized, and I have a set amount of time I want to do them and how many times I want to do them within a week. And then each week, when I'm planning the podcast is where I'm going to look back and see how things went, and then I can make adjustments from there. So if something is not working, if I'm not doing something or if something is not working, I can look at why that is, and again, change my mind or change the goal. I don't really know what to call this segment. I thought goals would maybe be good, but then like goals is such a boring thing and like kind of probably makes people feel some type of way, like, I don't want to have a goal, but these are more, and then habits, I don't know if they're habits, I don't know if I'm going to continue them past the month, I don't even know. So we'll call it goals for now. But I have a personal, a business, and a knitting one for January. So here we go. My personal goal for January is to declutter for 30 minutes a day, 4 times per week. It can be any 4 days of the week. It can be weekends, it can be weekdays, and I'll put it into my calendar when I do my planning for the week. And I'm starting these next week because you don't have to start at the beginning of January, FYI. You can literally start whenever you want to. So declutter for 30 minutes a day. I'm so excited to do this. I love decluttering, so I can't wait to update you. My business goal for this month, I had so many things I wanted to work on, but the one that is actually the most pressing is that I need to work on my bookkeeping, which is tracking expenses and income. What's the other thing? So I started using a new program in September, and then because it was a new system, I just like stopped doing my weekly tracking that I was doing, and I have a huge backlog of transactions that I need to go in and label and sort in my system. I apologize if this is like weird business talk that you're like, I don't even understand, but basically I need to spend time on my computer looking at expenses and income and like labeling it like this is from the membership, this is from this is from that. And I have a lot of it to do, like 5 months of it to do. So I am going to make my goal, work on bookkeeping for 30 minutes, 4 times per week. I think that is much more doable. I can literally put it in as a reoccurring block in my calendar. I can like shift it, at different times of the day. Boom, done. And I will just do this until it's done or until the end of January. And then my knitting goal, way more exciting. My knitting goal for the month, actually previously shared, is to work on my granny stripe blanket for 30 minutes a day for 30 days until it is complete. And as I discovered during this podcast, I actually only have to do this 26 days. Maybe I'll just go to 30. Who knows? I'll kind of see once I get closer to that. But I cannot wait to work on it. So I will be sharing weekly the progress on these goals and how things have been going. And if this is something that is interesting for you, maybe even try out in like one of these areas, or maybe you have a different area of something that you want to work on. But I really find that like breaking it down, like the 30 minutes 4 times a week or the 30 minutes a day, so much more doable. Just don't give yourself too much to do. That's why it's not 30 minutes every single day, because then that would be an hour and a half every single day of things and goals that I need to do. Too much, way too much. All right, thank you so much for watching this episode. I am so happy to begin another year in the Love and Stitches podcast. If you're watching this before Friday, January 6th at midnight and you're interested, go sign up for the membership. If not, the waitlist link will be down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.